Cool.
Thank you, Gareth, for coming and talking to us on RDU.
Not at all.
So your line in the last few days has been about how politics should be about policy rather than personality. Is that not a call to, kind of a silent call to a crowd where it is about personality?
Well, I think we did a bit of market research actually, or had it commissioned before we started this political project. And the result of that research was that 39% of the contribution to the average voter's decision on whether they support a policy is what's in it for me. So in other words, it's self-centred. 31% is who's promoting this, red or blue. And if it's not the one I like, go to hell, sort of thing. So that's tribal politics, right? Or identity politics, personality politics. I don't care what you call it, but it's all about, what tribe you belong to. And you've got to realise 65% of New Zealanders never change their vote.
Right.
So they have no influence whatever on elections.
If we look at the...
And then 24% of the contribution, so I'm up to 94 now, is who's paying for this policy. And if it's somebody I can't stand, yeah, do it. But if you're going to raise tax on me, go to hell. So that only leaves 6% contribution to the decision. Is this policy actually good for New Zealand or not? That's my target.
Okay.
Obviously, I'm hoping to expand that. 6% is not too many.
But you'd have to get pretty much all of that.
Yeah, or expand it. The whole, I see this policy, I see this top project as social work, basically.
Okay.
So what I'm trying to do is say to the average voter, hey, that's not the way you should be looking at democracy and voting. You shouldn't be identity politics, personality politics. It's policy that matters if you actually care.
Well, from the outside, though, it kind of feels like your party was given quite a lot of media attention when the opposition were boring. I guess I could use that word. I could also say, they were kind of hopeless. And so we were looking for alternatives. Gareth Morgan comes along. Since Jacinda's become leader, it does feel as though your attention, the momentum from just you and the media has diminished. What would you say to that?
I think since Jacinda's come along, everybody's exposure in the media has diminished. Absolutely it has. She's been a phenomenon, and I think she hasn't done anything yet, but it doesn't matter. That's fine, that's identity politics. But I actually think it's more than that. I think the fact that she's become leader is just fantastic, because at last we've got a competition between those two big parties. The worst thing for all of us is if you have either party just walk in, because governments become arrogant and they serve their own constituency rather all of New Zealanders. So we've got a contest, so that's cool. Labor's still the same, hasn't got any policy. All right, its policy's really, really lightweight. So that's why I said, when she came in, I said, we have ours actually, do it all. And so I can go back to my life.
Was that a political stunt?
No, I mean it.
So you actually meant it. If Labour had said, we'll take those policies, you would have said, I'm not running this campaign.
Yeah, well, I'm not here for a career. I'm here to try and push New Zealand on a path of progress.
So you must have known, though, that Labour's response would have been, why doesn't Gareth read our policies?
Yeah, well, I have read their policy and we've done a lot of work on it, The policy is very, very lightweight, all right? And, the policy that TOP presents as best practice policy. It's not because I've gone into some dark room and dreamt it all up, although that's the impression I give you. It is basically the consensus of the policy research and advisory community in New Zealand. And it's presented to the public unfiltered. There's no political overlay on it. And I just come from this perspective that the public, when fully informed, is unbelievably rational. Right, but they've got to be fully informed first. So I've got to smash this identity politics and personality politics in order to expand my 6%.
Yeah, right. Do you have any, how do you see the population becoming informed?
Well, the main, talking to each other. It ends up being viral. I just noticed with these gigs, this is the third time we've been to Christchurch, and they started off about 200. This one tonight, we've got 600-700 people saying they're coming, it's just going mad. And what's really interesting is it's the young ones dragging their parents along. So that's cool, that's awesome. So, if you've got a good product, It should be. You shouldn't need to advertise it, right? It should go virally. I mean, that's what we did when we built Trade Me. It was exactly that. We didn't advertise at all. It just went viral, and it's no different to this.
What percentage of the 700 people that come tonight do you think might vote top?
I've got no idea.
No idea.
But you know, we were just in that last poll that UMR did, we were just nudging 4%. So, you know, we will get somewhere between 5 and 10 this time.
You think you'll get 5 and 10?
Between 5
Between
and 10.
5%
That'd be
and
my
10%.
pick, yeah.
That's your estimation.
Totally.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about policy then.
Yeah.
So some of the kind of modern, you know, these interesting policies you're talking about monetary policy. Let's talk about this universal basic income that you're interested in. So you've offered it for young people between...
Yeah, we're staging it in. So the first ones to get it are the old people, actually. They already get it. The problem with New Zealand super is too high. So we cut that in half, unless they need it, and then they get targeted welfare over the top. So a guy like me, for example, or my wife and I, we're supposed to get just under 40 grand next year. I don't need a cent of it.
Okay.
So what the hell are you doing? It's obscene when you have these...
So you're going to cut, but it'll be
cut in
tested
half.
with wealth.
Second half will be means tested.
Okay.
Yeah, and we'll use that money that we save on that, which is about 3 billion, it's about a quarter of the cost. We'll use that to give the UBI to families with really young kids who are most vulnerable to poverty.
Yeah.
And then the third group that we're bringing in is the 18 to 23-year-olds.
18 to 23-year-olds.
And that money's coming from cancelling the tax cuts that Stephen Joyce gave me and himself.
Yeah,
I said,
right.
Stephen, I don't really need a tax cut, mate. Let's go and help these people who are really struggling with this transition from the nest to standing on their own feet, because that world has changed enormously for young people.
Do you think that this age group between 18 and 23, there's a chance that you will just kind of be, not encouraging work?
Oh, no, you can't have the UBI too high. It can't be as high as the minimum wage, for example, for exactly the point the moral has it. So the 10,000 a year is about a third of the minimum wage. But the main point, what we found, well, there's a couple of points. The cost of going to work, if you have targeted welfare, which we still have, 1970s style targeted welfare, then what you find is when the people move into the workforce, the cost of going to work plus the abatement of the welfare makes it not worth going to work. So it's a major impediment on workforce participation. And so the experiments they've done with the UBI is that it actually lifts participation in the workforce, doesn't. But the real main driver is the Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk comments that we are going to destroy jobs on a scale you can't even imagine. So you better have a UBI in place, given the no truck drivers, no bus drivers, no taxi drivers, no couriers, no people in the retail shops. What are you going to do?
So what's your ideal future New Zealand economy look like? What kind of industries will...
Let me be really far-fetched.
Yeah,
right?
be far-fetched.
From an economist's point of view, the ideal is we have one machine and it does all the work, creates all the GDP. You and I spend our lives on the beach, right? That's what economists dream of. The issue then becomes, how do you get the income from the owner of the machine to everybody else? That's essentially the principle of a UBI, right? It's a redistribution mechanism. Now that's pretty far-fetched.
It is far-fetched. But what about the joy that work brings people,
Oh yeah, but it doesn't say you can't work. It just means that you don't have any work. It means that you don't necessarily link the joy of work to the remuneration. I mean, there's 1 million people in this country right now who work every day and don't receive a cent. They're bringing up their children, they're looking after their elders, or in the case of many elders, they're actually looking after communities. Now those people, our society will collapse tomorrow. But we have this thing in our head that if you're not in paid work, you're worthless. Not good.
Do you think that there's any room for quantitative easing in New Zealand?
Monetary policy we're talking about now.
Printing money.
Yeah, there's always room for easier monetary policy as long as you don't cause inflation, because then you're going nowhere, right? At the moment, inflation in New Zealand is pretty low. But the main thing for me in terms of allowing monetary policy to provide a stimulus is we've first got to take out the tax break for housing, because if we keep the tax break in housing, I know what's going to happen as a result of easing. My house price just doubled again.
Okay.
Thanks very much.
Yeah, right.
That's a wealth redistribution.
You have started this party from scratch, right?
Yeah.
What's that process like? Would you encourage others to do the same? Would you say it's fun? Would you say it's hard work?
It's hard. It's hard to take a lot of shit, basically. You know, people call you all sorts of names, but that's fine. I normally give it back with interest. I mean, I'm in a really lucky situation here. I mean, professionally, I'm an economist. You know, I spent most of my working life in the public policy space, so I know this stuff, right, backwards. So I've got knowledge. I'm rich, you know, and I'm still acutely interested in public interest. That is an amazing confluence of three factors, you know, that, I mean, someone's looking over my shoulder here. So to me, it's public duty that I'm in this unique position, I can do it. You know, and I've got a lot of young, really young people around me, you know, who are really burning with desire and keen and all the rest of it, but they don't really have the means to do it. They don't also have the life experience. But that's our future, you know.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
So, I mean, I'll gather them around too, and we're in. You know, this will work.
So it is costly, is it? It costs a lot?
I'll spend probably up to 5 million.
5 million?
Probably.
Yeah. So you
But
basically, to run any kind of campaign, you need $1 million.
That's about a third of what the Nats will spend.
Yeah, but it'll probably be more than Labour.
Be about the same with Labour.
Similar?
Yeah. So, you know, that's, if you want to get in the space, it's a bit like justice. It's only for rich people.
Yeah, right.
So, you know, well, there is a problem there.
Kind of winding up, just something from your past that I thought was fascinating, because I'd done the same. I went to North Korea with Young Pioneer Tours. The same group that took Otto along, and you know, I was in a similar situation to him, so that was quite crazy watching that. But what did you think of North Korea?
Well, I mean, I know Jane and I know South Korea really well. Been there many, many times, and we've always looked through that wire saying, "Oh, wouldn't it be cool to go there?" Yeah. And eventually the thing came, and we rode our bikes. And I had to go to Pyongyang first to get permission to go to North Korea, and they said, "Well, you can come to Pyongyang," and I said, "No. This is part of a around the world bike tour."
So were you like talking to government officials about it?
for a week.
Yeah.
All right. I've been negotiating 6 years for this. It's a massive effort. All right. And I said, "No, here's your map of your country. I'm coming down these roads." And they said, "Well, no." Well, 2 days later, they came back and said, "Yes."
Yeah.
Could have knocked me over with a feather, right?
Yeah.
Yes, but you must go out through the DMZ. And I said,
well, like go
through the DMZ. So I came in through Russia.
That's crazy.
Rode the whole of North Korea, the whole thing, everywhere I wanted to go, and go through the wire.
So I mean, how many people cross that border?
No one.
No one.
No one.
I've never heard of somebody crossing that border.
Absolutely unique experience. So, and we got Korea. The origin of the Korean people is their mountain range down the. So we went to the sacred mountain Paektusan, which is up the top. Took rocks out of the crater there, and the idea was to take it down the bottom of South Korea and throw them in the crater Hallasan, which is the one down on Jeju Island. Everywhere we rode in South Korea, everywhere, people would stop us, truck drivers, anybody, and say, "You have the rocks from Paektusan," because it's a holy mountain, right?
Yeah.
I said, "Yeah," and I get them out. And the South Korean people, didn't matter what the age was, would either kiss them, put them to their hearts, or just burst into tears.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, and then I just threw them into the volcano down at Hallasan at Jeju Island. I said, and I had TV, everything was there. And I said, "Isn't this ridiculous that I'm a nobody from a nobody country, and I can travel the length of your country, and none of you have. None of you can. There's something really wrong here."
But people kind of see you passing on the motorbike and kind of what is going on there?
Yeah. I mean, when we did North Korea, we had a military escort from the top of the country to the bottom, so to stop all the traffic. No trucks were allowed, and loud hailers, and it was unreal.
It's unreal, yeah.
It was a very surreal experience.
I can imagine.
Awesome, yeah.
Well, thank you, Gareth. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah. Nice to talk to you.
You too.
Yeah, cool.